in respect of the quality label of the PEP and the authorization, I mean, we know, again, there is good evidence that whether we like it or not, personal pensions are not an overly trusted product. There's commissioned surveys to that effect. We know that. And that therefore, in a sense, the authorization is a kind of one-shot deal to make the product a trusted one. And therefore, it is a very important part of the process. And therefore, any authorization process should be robust. And moreover, that once authorization has been completed, that there is then regular supervision of the provider and the product by the national supervisory authorities. That there be a register for PEPs, a transparent register for PEPs, in order to be able to, in order for any pension scheme member to be able to see what is the condition of their PEP, and that, as Gabrielle already said, that there should be an annual report by EIOPA on the supervisory status of PEPs. In respect of provisions for consumer protection, distribution via IDD and MiFID providers, essentially what is being proposed here is that it enables those who are already regulated to distribute PEPs, that importantly, if the product is non-complex, the requirement for advice can be waived, including via online distribution. Again, I think this goes back to a point that Natalie made, that it is important that we look at what our kind of modern approaches to the purchase of products. That again, particularly in respect of the young, they do not necessarily approach an advisor in the more traditional way. In respect of switching, that it's important to strike a balance between the PEP as a long-term retirement product, capturing the benefits of long-term investment, but also the ability to leave an underperforming product or where circumstances or an individual change. And therefore, what was proposed is that there is the ability to switch products every 5 years. Finally, on portability, that, as has already been said, that there be a single authorization, that there be the ability to offer the PEP in the different member states. We know, as has already been said, that the tax treatment is different, but that the notion of compartments would enable contributions to be kind of left in the member states where they were accumulated and given the tax treatment that would be imposed in that member state. So that's just a short summary of what EIOPA advised, what we see as the priorities. I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the panel discussion. Thank you.
Justin, thank you for the interesting presentation. We have actuary and practitioner in this panel, so we expect Falco to cover not only actuarial issues. Falco, the floor is yours.
Why not? Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. It's very nice to be here. And yes, I will speak as an actuary. I am an actuary. But as this is about a personal pension product, I will also speak from a more personal perspective. And actuaries, well, you can find some background here. What I particularly like of our purpose is the last sentence there, contributing to the well-being of society. That is what inspires me. And I think that can be seen as a kind of high-level statement, a little bit spiritual maybe. But no, I think a concrete product like a PEP could be part of contributing to the well-being of society. I think, just as a first statement, that the Actuarial Association of Europe is very supportive of the PEP initiative. And that is nice. 23,000 actuaries. Well, perhaps not all individually, but having had our discussions, we are in favor of this initiative. And trust, it has already been mentioned a couple of times, trust is key in our view. And to come to something more personal, my daughter, she's studying psychology, and I expect that she will have her master's degree next month. And she told me, well, if you talk to people and say, don't think of an elephant, everybody starts thinking of an elephant, so you're not achieving what you are saying. But that is exactly what I will try to do in this presentation. I will give an example, a lesson from the past that can be inspirational in the way how not to do things. And that is something I was taught by my father to make it even more personal. A picture here. And he made a lot of mistakes in his life. He admitted to me when he was closer to his death. And he said, well, let this be a lesson how not to do things. And I really appreciate that. It was a wise lesson for me. And now I will try to give a lesson based on PEPP, well, linked to PEPP, how not to do things. A lesson from my own country, the Netherlands. There was a PEPP-like product some 20, 25, 30 years ago. And it was an investment-based savings product. Contributions, tax deductible, was very important. That was the way how to sell it, through tax. Equity returns were great. So invest all your money into the equity market. I'm talking about, well, you see it there. Interest rates were coming down, so that was not really interesting to invest in that product. Then already in 1994, there was a first report showing that these products were not transparent. It was not about, well, cost transparency, not about the assumptions that were put into the projections. The products were very difficult to compare. High expected returns used in the projections. No attention, well, I've said here minimal attention, but in fact, I think it was no attention to the risks involved for consumers. And this report, yes, to make it personal, was co-authored by me and my brother. That was already 1994. There were follow-up reports in 97, 99, 2000. There was media attention for those results, but it kept going on. This product was sold. It was changed minimally, some more cost transparency, some more information, and then later on it became a scandal. So that is an example how not to do things. We should not develop a PEPP that would result in a scandal, I would suggest. And it is easy not to do that, by the way, but I will go further with this example first. And by the way, at the moment I'm serving as an expert member in the Committee of Appeal of our Financial Services Complaints Tribunal in the Netherlands, trying to solve issues between consumers and insurers, banks, etc. Well, I'm an actuary, I like figures, so some numbers here. And the first table is just to show that it is a big thing, this product that we had in the Netherlands in those years. It is about big money, 49.2 billion of euros were accrued in that product in 2005. But I'm more interested in the asset assumptions that have been used for the purpose of this presentation. And there is a minimum, a maximum, and a median. Global equity, 13.7 median, but it could easily be 16.2. And that was part of the quote then for these products. And when I look at, well, some discussions that perhaps we should link PEPP to the PRIPS requirements, then PRIPS would only look 5 years back. And in the next slide, I've made a comparison with how that would look like. And I'm just looking at a 20 years product with a duration of 20 years, contributing 100 euros each month, so in total 24,000 euros. And then on the basis of these figures, these assumptions I just showed you, 16%, I've just taken the ones favorable, moderate, unfavorable, and the stress. Well, no, sorry. I'm now a bit confusing things and mixing things up. This would be a kit example of using PRIPS. So the current last 5 years would result in figures like this. With great results. If you pay in only 24,000 euros and you could get 81,000 in a moderate scenario and even 150,000 in a favorable scenario, well, people don't look at the stress scenario anymore. Of course, there's a stress scenario possible, but now the 17,000, 18,000, not interesting. And when I compare that to what we had in 20 years ago in the Netherlands, the 16.5%, the 12.1 and the 7.7 were very close to what would be the result if we would base a PEPP projection on the current PRIPS requirements. So my advice is, let's not do that. So that is easy to change, I think, and the AAE has looked at this and made the suggestion, well, perhaps at least we should look over a longer term, because PEPP is a long-term product, and perhaps we should consider a team of independent experts looking at assumptions. What is reasonable? What can be done looking forward? And of course, you can use the information by looking backward, but what would be a good set of assumptions for a PEPP proposal? Further, we have made more recommendations, more observations and suggestions. We have also produced a paper on this. I won't go through them all, but just highlight a couple of those, like capital guarantees, which is one of the other discussions. Should that be part of the default? Well, it could be, but perhaps not necessarily as part of the default. There are other risk mitigation techniques like life cycling approaches that can do the work. But, well, let's discuss. We have not a fixed opinion there. All investment options in the proposal must provide value for money, is our view. But in the current text, it says at least one must be cost effective. Article 38.1. Well, that is also easy to solve. Let's make them all cost effective, I would suggest. And the risk mitigation should be seen in the light of the decumulation phase. How do you decumulate? And it differs a lot whether you will buy an annuity at retirement or will have a drawdown or any other way of decumulation. My personal favorite decumulation would be something, a deferred annuity, buying starting at 80 or 85, for example, to cover the real long life risk. And perhaps part of the capital can be used as a lump sum to do all the nice things that you always wanted to do and now you have time for it, just retired. You have some money to do that, and then in between you could have a drawdown solution, for example, and for those who want safety, you can always buy a further annuity. So that is what I wanted to bring in this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Falco. When I'm talking with actuary, I'm talking with great respect in Bulgaria and the company, life insurance company I'm managing. If the executive director wants something to happen, but the actuaries say no, the things are going in no direction. So, thank you for this lively presentation. Now, we were planning to ask the questions. I saw in the application that we have almost 10 questions, but because we're behind of the time schedule, I want to ask first the audience if somebody wants to ask a question, our panelists. No questions. Sorry. Yes. Associate Professor Daniela Bobeva.
From WUZF. Yeah. So I understand that one of the main obstacles is the fiscal part. So you are here in a country where any kind of fiscal stimulus are not in fashion for more than 25 years. Do you believe that in countries that have no any appetite to have fiscal stimulus for particular financial products, you could achieve success of PEPP? Thank you.
Maybe Natalie. I think maybe Natalie will try to answer.
Thank you for this question. It's a very relevant and very important question, and I think that the response will be in the hand of each member state. But member states, of course, do support this initiative, and they have shown this support in Council, which has allowed progressing the discussion on the PEPP proposal. I guess that the member states will want to have a look into the different types of PEPP which will be proposed. And we have today 49 different pension schemes and tax regimes in the member states. So the issue is not if a product, if a PEPP meets all the criteria in a PEPP, in a member state's pension scheme, of course, then it needs to benefit from the tax incentives. The question is where it does not meet all the requirements. And to meet this, we have recommended to member states that they would still grant tax incentives. I think that what will be important will be that there will be a start somewhere in 1, in 2, in 5 member states who will show their strong commitment and the political commitment that they show and translate it in granting incentivizations to subscribing to the PEPP. And from the moment that there will be a number of member states granting these tax incentives, I believe that it will take up and that there will be, if I may say, a contamination effect across the member states. We are going to continue our exchanges with the member states' tax experts on this topic. And we have also invited member states to exchange their practices and exchange best practices regarding the taxation of personal pension products with a view to consider aligning them in the future. But your question is absolutely relevant. No one today can bring 100% response. There is a matter of trust, and of course, we will need to have good quality products. And it is also a reason why we have proposed that EIOPA would be in charge of authorizing the use of the PEPP label to contribute to establishing the trust, consumers' trust, and member states' trust. Thank you.
Maybe Justin wants to add something.
Thank you, Stanislav. Just very briefly, I mean, this point comes up a lot. The question is, what is the alternative? I mean, do you therefore do nothing because there are different tax regimes in the different member states? And I think the answer to that has to be no. I mean, given all that we have heard even today about the pensions gap, about the lack of trust in certain pension products, about the lack of occupational pension provision in various member states, to sort of say, well, because there is different tax treatment, we therefore have to do nothing. That seems to me to be overly defeatist. That, as Natalie says, we can make a start, and that as we progress, then perhaps some of these difficulties will be reduced. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question, Miroslav. Okay.
Десислав Данов, имам един въпрос. Съжалявам. Като се има предвид, че това ще бъде продукт, който следва титуляра, и като се има предвид високите нива на вътрешна миграция в рамките на Европейския съюз от периферията към центъра, дали в средносрочен план това няма да доведе до отлив на капитали в тази посока? И всъщност да намали нивата на капитал в периферията на Европа?
Okay. Do we have translation? Okay, we have translation. Yeah, maybe Natalie, you try.
Thank you. Another very interesting and relevant question. The PEPP is designed for all citizens in the European Union, and it is to be portable, so to allow precisely those who are changing residence in the European Union to continue contributing to the same product. So if you take someone who would start a PEPP here in Sofia and would then move to Bucharest and then to Helsinki and then to Madrid, the PEPP provider, who would be possibly based in Sofia, would then open within the PEPP account a compartment or a sub-account of the PEPP, which will allow the provider to feature to the local tax incentives, of course, in the interest of the PEPP saver. But the capital is not going to move. So when the PEPP saver will move from Sofia to Bucharest or to Helsinki or to Madrid, this saver will continue to contribute to the same product and to the same account. The capital is not moving, and there is no need for it to move because we have free movement of capital in the European Union. So all will depend on where the product is started, of course. But then, of course, let's not forget that we propose that there would be a possibility to switch provider, not only on a domestic, but also on a cross-border basis. But this is a different type of hypothesis. However, this being said, I don't think that this initiative will trigger a major movement of capital in the European Union in the sense of moving it from one member state to another. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. The questions from the Slido, I think we can use in the second panel. There are a lot of interesting. One of them is very brief. How will be our saving guaranteed? But Miroslav wants a question. Miroslav Morinos from the pension insurance company Duverie. And I think this is the last question for this panel.
Thank you very much. Since this is the last question, I'll make this in two. So the first one is, do you think that we need a PEPP label for the payout phase, as you were mentioning about the accumulation phase? And second question is, what is the meaning of safe nowadays?
Okay, maybe start with the second question, and Falco, maybe, what is the meaning of safe?
That you get what that was promised, I think. I think it is difficult to give safety in the sense that you know exactly which amount can be saved until retirement. Because it is an investment product, basically, and there are investment risks, and those need to be well communicated. And I think also the likely outcome should be based on a kind of prudent set of assumptions. That is what I've tried to say in my talk. And safe is also, well, I think it is basically getting what was promised, and it is for supervisors, first of all, IOPA, I think, to look in a very great detail into the product and look whether it satisfies the criteria for PEPP, and then in the ongoing supervision to ensure that also in the future it will keep up with what is communicated to the consumers.
And the first question, volunteer? Yeah, Natalie.
Thank you. A very simple response to this question. A PEPP is a PEPP is a PEPP. We are creating a new market we are creating a new product, we are creating a new label. And this product and this label is there from the design of the product by the industry until, if I may say, the death of the PEPP saver. So there is one PEPP and there will be one PEPP contract. You know, we want different types of providers to compete on this market, but they will all be offering a PEPP. The underlying elements of the PEPP may have some variations, but it will still be a PEPP. It will be a PEPP before, at the moment of exchanges and advice to the consumer. It will be a PEPP at the signature of the contract, a PEPP during the accumulation phase, and still a PEPP during the decumulation phase, because during the decumulation phase, people will still need and still want to have the features of the PEPP, notably the portability of the PEPP.
And really last question, Professor Metodi Christov. Those persons in the hall who studied finance were his students. He's one of the people maybe teaching more than 40 years.
Да, сега може би се чува. Както е известно, при всяка една инвестиция се търси и доходност. Предвижда ли се такава при този продукт и каква е тя? Благодаря за...
Okay. Investment income. Maybe Justin?
Yes, I mean, a very good question, but the answer is that it depends on each product. I think that what is vital is that the nature of the product is spelled out very clearly at the point at which the pension saver enters it. And that if there is a guarantee element, then that is clearly spelled out. If there is no guarantee element, that is equally clearly spelled out, that the risks of whatever choice are made are communicated clearly in a way that is designed for the pension scheme member to understand rather than for the provider to escape their liability if something goes wrong. But yeah, in terms of what might be the expected return, well, I mean, I think if we knew this, I wouldn't be working for a European agency. I'd probably be much richer sitting on a yacht somewhere.
Okay, thank you. And really, maybe we have to close the panel. I really thank to the panelists. We'll have the opportunity to talk with them. And really, I feel that after the panel, as Mr. Ademov said, we'll be more informed about the PEPP. Now, Virginia.
Thank you, Stanislav. Dear guest, I think the discussion was quite fruitful and inspiring. Now I would like to invite you for a short coffee break. We need to be back in 4:45 p.m. So please join us outside.